Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for investing your time to listen to the session Project Keep. My name is Stephan Wissel. I work as a Director Innovation for HCL, and my Twitter handle is @NodeSensei. For this session, I have prepared 500 slides, because only when you have 30 slides per second, the movie does not flicker. But then I realized you're all technical professionals, so slides can be very boring. So I rather show you live demos as much as I can. What is Project Keep? The tagline is Keep is a REST API for Domino done right. And there's a few attributes you can see on the slide. We say API first, open standards, security, which we put into planning before we get started. But before I share technical details with you, I want to show you a short video, what it can do for our business users. Because I have to show a little video because it uses Excel on Windows, and the functionality is not available on Mac, and I'm a Mac user sometimes. The other times I use Linux. Okay, let me go and run this small video for you. And this is about the main tool business users use. That's Excel. If ever aliens land on our planet and want to destroy us, they're going to go and destroy all Excel files, and then all business stops. Okay. Excel user opens a workbook, then goes to data, get data, other sources, and picks OData. And then it provides the URL that goes to Keep. Keep can run with a Domino server. Keep can also run on a Nodes client. So provides the URL. And in this case, it's a to-do sample application. And it goes out and finds the information from Domino straight away. You see the first column is the UNID. And then the data gets pulled into Excel straight away for use. But this is not the import. This is a live start. So I'm going to go and create another entry. I'm going to show you something like this live in a second. I create the entry, adjust a few values, send it to the Domino server, and then I go back to Excel and I say, okay, query, refresh the data, and the data shows up. So you have a very good idea. And then let's move on to developers. In this case, I don't need a movie anymore. I can show you that live. Okay. When you, like say, we're so used to Domino Designer as Domino developers. It's a wonderful graphical user interface. We can use drag and drop to create things. But when you ask your younger colleagues who develop, like say, Angular or React, what do they do? The first thing what they do is they open a command line to interact with their environment. And I said, okay, we spent 30 years to create nice graphical user interfaces, but if the fashion of today is to use command line, I want to be able to use command line as well. So I'm going to open my terminal window, and I'm going to go and then log into my Keep server. And what you see there, the funnel, that segment, when you look very, very carefully, there's one dot in here, and there's another dot in here. And if you know a little bit the open standard, that looks suspiciously like a JWT token. And this is actually what it is. So you can log into Keep using JWT. That can be provided by the Domino server itself by logging in with username and password. But if your customer says, I have an identity provider like ADFS or Keycloak, then you can ask the identity provider to provide this information. So we are very flexible in how you authenticate. And then I say, okay, I like to get access to see what databases are available. So I say keep get, and then I say databases. And this is a lot of data which is not very nice to read. So I use a little tool which is called JQ to make it a little bit more more readable. And JQ is a JSON query that allows me to go and filter out data. So and let me just prepare that a little bit. And I send that off, and it tells me, okay, you got the database names, you got a database keep config, you got a database vault, and you got a database demo. I said, okay, easy to guess. I'm going to use the demo database because this is a demo. And then I want to know what data can I find in that database. So the first thing what I want to know is show me what forms are available. All right, okay. I use again keep get design forms, and then I said the database is demo, and then I just use a little bit of JQ to just pull out the name of the forms. I don't need the complete information. So it goes in, and I said, okay, you got 4 different forms: sample, Salesforce, customer, and marketing. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. I would really like to see also what views do I have in the database I can use. So I go in there and say, okay, another query. So give me the design views of the database demo. And again, I just pull out the names. So I go in there and I said, okay, you have all customers, marketing info, and the likes. And I said, okay, I would like to get the list of customers. That's quite interesting. So I can go there, copy it in, and say, okay, I want to list customers. I said, Stephan, there's no such thing as lists in Domino. One of the things what we did is we looked at what do other databases like Mongo or Couch provide, and they don't know about views and folders. They know about lists. And since views and folders are technically like lists, views are lists with a query, folders are lists with whatever is in the folder. So we decided to call it lists. So our young colleagues that come from other development environments have an easier time to understand that. And it straight away goes off and I see all the data. That was about 1,000 records in less than a second. One of the little highlights what I want to show is like say, you see here, there is ETAG. So we provide an information, when was this record last updated? So when your application wants to go and get this information, whether should I requery it again, the ETAG is a standard way in web applications to know this information. Okay, I could go on and work with it's not only allows you get, it also allows you to post data. It allows you to get design elements. But let's move away from the command line interface and look a little bit more at the UI. So let me move this away. I'm currently running Keep against my Nodes client. So we Keep is able to run with a Nodes client. Keep is also able to run on a Domino server. We currently support Windows and Linux, but I say moving closer to when we release a product, we probably will have all the platforms in there, depending on demand. So Keep has its own web UI. It uses its own port. So we don't use the Domino HTTP stack. We use our own HTTP stack, which is already HTTP2 capable and including SSL capabilities using all key formats. So you're not limited to the Java key store. One of the things which we made very, very sure is to start with open standards. So what we did was to use the core open API. That's a specification how REST APIs should look like. And it has for us two effects. The first one is, let's say we start with the API first and then work backwards. So Domino is capable of serving it. And the second nice effect of an open API specification is that you get a full documentation that you can use to see how the API works. But the documentation is not just documentation. You even can go and act with it. So when I go and say, for instance, I want to know databases. No, it's a list of the databases. I can click there, and it says, "Okay, try it out." Of course, one of the things what will go haywire when I said try it out. I say, okay, this is nice. Execute this, and it will tell me as a response 401. You're not authorized, because this API, as I told earlier, uses the JWT, and without a proper token, you can't get into it. So I'm going to reuse the token that I have from our command line demo. So I go in there. I say, you see, there's the little lock, and I provide the token, and then I try this again. And now I get the list of, you see the list of the databases as we got it from the command line as well. So the nice thing is, without having to write a single line of code or install a command line tool, which in our case is just a small shell script, you get all the information. In case you wonder what this huge string for the icon is, this is a base64 encoded SVG image. So it's just you are free to provide your own little images for each and every database. So you can then go continue and interact in the same way as in the command line to see all of this. If you don't like this type of UI, let me go back to the start page. Oops. We have the same UI also in the redoc format. So that's a different way to look at it and said, okay, data, how to get the document. So you see all this. Okay, what happens if things don't work, and you get the different responses. You get the details and all that. So it's a self-documenting system. We add a new API endpoint. It will automatically show up in this UI without you having to wander and read release notes and all that. So that's the starting point. We currently have 3 pieces of API. One is the core, which is used for interacting with applications. Then we have the PIM, which is interacting with mail, like say mail, calendar, contacts, tasks, as well as journal or notes, as somebody else calls it. So we get all these 3 APIs, and we also have what I showed you in the demo, the OData interface. OData will prompt us for a username and password, because Excel only can do a basic authentication. It doesn't do JWT, so I need to go and log in here. In case the irony gets lost on you, John Doe is a US legal term for an unknown person. So, oops. Okay, got a little bug there. I'm running off my latest development version. But I say this is what OData will go and allow you the Excel interaction. The other thing is what we provided is an administrative user interface that will give you allow you to interact with the configuration of the database. So let's have a quick look. I go to the demo database, and it says, okay, you have 3 forms configured and 1 is not configured. What does that mean? It's that when you interact with the application, you can retrieve information from customer, from sample form, from marketing, but you cannot retrieve information from Salesforce. And then I'm going to show you that in a second. When you interact with the form, you can actually specify what you can see. Let me open up the sample form, and then you see here I said you are allowed to see color, form, shape, and taste, which is pretty much everything in a mode called default. But if you're the approver, and this is defined by an add formula, you can only see, like say, form and taste, but you can't see the other fields. Let me demo that a little bit. My favorite tool to interact with REST APIs is an application called Postman that allows me to interact with the backend in a nice and easy fashion. So the first thing is, okay, I'm going to go and log in, make sure that I have a proper authentication. I'm not going to show you the body with the username and password. And then you see there is the bearer again, my JWT token. I use the Postman tests. Here you say there is a little bit of test code where I actually keep, that's a little trick, I keep my the bearer token that comes back in a variable in Postman. So all the other calls pick up the bearer automatically, so you don't have to copy and paste it. That's one of the beauties that that Postman provides for me. Okay, so now I have logged in, and I can do the same thing what I can do in from the command line or from the Swagger UI. I said, okay, give me all data from the demo database. I send it off, and you see in about half a second, I can actually look at the header. I get 3,300 documents back. 3,300 view entries. Sorry, I'll be accurate there. Okay, so now I said, okay, let me pull out one document, and it has the URL document, then the unique ID of the document, and then you see approver. Let's say this is the mode I'm looking at. So I go and send this off, and then you see here, I have the form is the sample form and the taste suite. And then I have a bit of metadata, like say with the @ sign, that that defines, like say, when was it created, modified, and all the likes. So as the approver, I only see this form and taste. Now, if I go back to my web interface and said, okay, the approver actually should also be able to see the color. So I go and said, okay, add color to the read access. I say save this. I said, okay, it has been successfully updated. Then I go back to my Postman and I fetch the same document again. Then you see now color shows up as an approved value again. We did that to give proper credit. That was a conceptual idea that Paul Withers, is to say, in a classic notes application, we are so used to, like say, we create workflow application and we use hide-when formulas, we use query safe agents, where we ensure that depending on the status of the document and the person using it, you see different fields. For instance, in a requester would see subject and dollar amount and date of travel and the likes, but he would not see the status field, or the status field would be just for display as a new. The approver, on the other hand, would only see the subject field and the amount field, but he would be able to edit be it a button or a drop down, the status field to approve or reject. And if you want to do that in a REST API, the REST API doesn't care. Like say we had REST APIs in Domino before, but if you had write access to a document, you could update any field you want, which is a big breach of business logic. So we said, okay, that's not a good idea. If you want to make the REST API work, so the API needs to go and prevent you from overriding fields. And this is why we created the form modes, where I said, I can specify what fields can somebody read, and I can specify which fields can somebody write. So I can make sure, for instance, here in the case, the approver cannot update, oops, I said, okay, now the approver cannot update the color field. So I can simply edit that. We build in a facility, which we currently is under heavy development, where we go and said, okay, we can actually test the formula against the specific user and against the document ID. So you can see whether your formulas you entered there are actually working. But we pushed that a step further and said, who can access a Domino database using REST? And the first thing is, of course, a browser application. So your colleagues write something in React or Angular or Vue or whatever library might be the fashion of the day, and then they can directly, without the need of an intermediary, access the Domino server. And this capability makes sure that they don't update what they shouldn't update. But there's also the possibility that you said, I want to have an application server like a JE server or Node.js or Python or PHP or Rust, because there is some sensitive business logic. So we build an ability to define applications. So I can say, I have an application in this case. Let's open it up. I create an application, demo app, and give it a description. And I said, this application can go and access the demo database and can access the Vault database. And okay, I give it an icon. And the very moment I create that, I can specify that this application needs from a server an application secret and an application ID. Application ID would be demo app. So you can't directly access it from a browser, but only from your application server. I said, whoa, wait. You just showed me that demo is accessible through the browser. How do you make sure that it is only accessed to an application server? So when I go back to my database and look at my properties, I can actually here specify, okay, which is the actual database. So we split. This is the name the API has. This is the file path. The advantage is if you move your NSF around, your API doesn't break. In the previous REST API we had in Domino, you move your NSF or you rename your NSF, all the API paths break. In this case, it does. You just need to update the entry. And then here you see open access enable. So we can say enable that or disable that. Let's see. I'll show you this. So I can actually disable that. And that very moment, that demo database is no longer accessible through the browser directly. So you would need to have an application server in between. So you can set, if you have a little bit more sensitive application, you can then have your own additional layer of security. We also allow to say what is do we allow DQL queries against the database? So you can switch it on and off, because let's say with DQL, if somebody knows the data structure, they might query something you don't want to be queried. So you can switch it on and off. And we also can allow, do we allow the submission of a fresh agent or the submission of a piece of JavaScript code that then would run on the server. So we have this capability to switch that on and off. And this way, we have the security properly implemented. So how does that work under the hood? One of the things is what we build is the Barbican. In case that's a word you don't know, this is when you have a castle and you usually have a drawbridge in front and there's a tower where the drawbridge sits. That's the Barbican. And that's our internal code. So what you see, that's on the right-hand side, the result is take the form from the database, check it against the document, check it against what was configured, the screen I showed you, and if that matches, then it gets out into the result. And this is all driven out of the keep configuration. So if you wonder where is all this information coming from, there's a website called projectkeep.io, and there you can already look at the documentation, giving you like an overview. What is Domino all about? It takes about like say how to install the things. We have an ability to run that in a Docker container, and there is a bit of information on how to use all of this. So Keep is not just a piece of software. We also try to make sure that there is a proper and complete documentation available. So the next thing what we were looking about, and I'm going to switch a little bit to my video, is one of the things was talking to customers. We found there is tons of agents that need to be run, and we build a prototype. What you see here is a screen from Node-RED. That's an open source tool where you can very simply running a little bit of code. And the first one you see, with the press of a button, I kick off an agent. Well, you know, open agent, that's not a big deal, and it runs. The challenge, of course, there is what happens. So you see, test an agent, and it runs off, and it takes, and it takes, and it takes, and it takes, and it takes. So you have to wait until it's finished. So this is the way how you can do that in standard nodes. But that doesn't make much sense because it stops you from going. So in this case, I said, okay, asynchronous, it straight away goes and jumps, said, okay, it has the status processing. So I can go and kick off an agent, and I've seen agents in customer environment that run every night that take 2 hours. A HTTP request times out after 30 seconds. So using the async option, what you just seen, let me just go back. Here you go. You see async is equals true. That allows to start the agent in async mode, and it goes straight away and gives you a status, and it's scheduled. So no more agent manager where you have to schedule yourself. You can do that on the API. Of course, I say, since the status is now processing, one of the things what I want to know is what's the status. So I send that off, and I straight away get the status. Okay, it's still running, and I see that action is actually under processing. So instead of waiting for it, you just can poll the query. But one of the things what you want to do is you can go and query, like say, get a callback to when an agent is running and when it's completed. So what you see here, the agent response. So it's starting, and that, and then it's running, and then when you go once it's done, you will see that it is completed. Yes, here, done. And the other thing is what we realized is, like say, sometimes you have agents that are that depend on the result of one. And then what we usually do in classic nodes is to go to agent manager, start that, and I said, okay, it runs 2 hours. So after 2.5 hours, I start the next one. And if they overlap, you get unexpected results. Here, we have the capability that we say we have a callback URL and a callback error URL, and then that allows us that I actually can go and chain. So I listen to it, and then I send out the next agent the very moment I'm ready with that. So I see agent runs, and after a short while, it should. What you see basically, by the way, what you see in the bottom is the screen that really is on the keep side, showing you all this information. And so that's one of the research projects we extensions for keep we're working on right now. It's under heavy development, and we'll make that available once we make keep available to a wider audience. But let's switch back a little bit to the UI and navigate a bit. So we had the let me go back to the URL app, back to the start page. Let's call Open API. When you go a little bit through that, so the first segment, admin, I can actually go and see applications is what I thought. That's a collection of databases that need to be accessed together. I have database. I can not only go and query them or see the elements. I can actually go and update them. So when you see look design, I can say get me the design, give me information on a database, but I also can say I can go and update this design. So you can create forms, you can create views without needing a domino designer. But the updating, this is not yet implemented, it's not exactly true. The updating is limited by the capabilities that the DXL allows you to do. So it's mainly meant for creating views and forms that are suitable for API access. If you want to go and make them pretty in the Nodes client as well, then you can actually go and use the DXL endpoint, where you can go and send DXL. The current limitation in this approach is that that you know what DXL can and can't do. So we're not miracle workers here, but it allows you definitely to interact with the database as well. And then you have interacting with the data, like attachments, with documents. And there I showed you the modes. And one of the thing is what you can do, you can also query. I'm not sure which modes are available for me to interact. So you actually can go and query, like say using get, which modes can I use for a database. Well, just maybe to give you an idea, let's try this. So I used the approver mode there, but I would actually really rather like know what can I use here. So I'm gonna go and send this off. Up, and it allowed up. Oh, of course, sorry. So we have this little Star Wars reference. This is not the URL you seek. And then the Jedi moves on. So I want to go modes. That's my then I said, okay, you actually have access to approver. This has the tree field and these two fields, and you have also access to the mode default. So I can go and say, okay, if I have access to both, I can try default. and I send this off. And you see, I see color, sample forms, round, sweet. And I said, okay, I want to go in the mode approver. And then I see less of them. Of course, in a real-life application, you would probably, other than the admin himself or herself, you would probably only have one mode per user. But you see, it is working code. Let me show you a little bit. Other thing is, like, say, for instance, if you're a fan of DQL, I can go and say, okay, there's my query. And we support the same thing, like say with a question mark substitute. I said, okay, I have my variable color as maroon, and I send this off, and I straight away get the results back. One of the little things what we do is we always, like say in the headers, we provide you the proper application type as well as a unique ID for that one query. So in one of the modules, we'll use this one as a caching mechanism. So you can go and send the query again, and if you're the same user, you will get the same information back. So that's one of the things what we're working on extending the whole thing. And yeah, another question that frequently pops up is it, okay, Stephan, you said you can use it on a Domino server. We understand that. You can use it on a Nodes client. How did you log in? Well, so when you went there, so where's our little login? Authentication. Auth, here you go. It says, I want a username and a password. In a Domino directory, that's easy, but on a Nodes client, which username and password do you use? And then one of the things what we introduced is you can have a local user. So that's in our database, the keep config, where all the information is stored. You can have a user that interacts with your local databases. You can actually have more than one. And but it fully honors the ACL settings. So you can't bypass any access control that has been defined in the database. One of the things what we're currently working on, let me just show you for the sake of completeness, show you the open API for the PIM. So there you say it's very typical, like say mail, like say get messages, get headers, get borders. One of the things that you find is labels. I said, Stephan, what the hell is labels? There is, we had a look in other email systems like Outlook. They have folders, and a document can live in one folder only. You look in Gmail, they have labels, and an email can have many labels. So the functionality of Domino folders and Gmail labels is more similar than Notes folders and Outlook folders. So we decided to call them labels. One of the interesting things is what we solved there is also in most of the mail systems, you can have more than one calendar. In Notes, we typically only have one calendar. So one of the things what we sorted out is to make sure that you can go and have more than one calendar configured and share, and we limit it to, guess what, 42. And you can have multiple calendars which you can share with different people. So that's one of the things we're currently working on. And also to have a standard JSON-based API, so you can interact with mail databases, with calendars, with contacts, and the likes. So that's a little bit on what we're working on the PIM field. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. I could jump to a lot of slides, but I think we skipped that part. Well, let me, is it? And we would go to the part. Okay, yeah, a few slides, just a few. So, of course, use cases is, let's say, might extend what we have in place. So what we build into the Keep API is an extensibility model. So you're not limited to what we provide, but you can basically, just by throwing a jar file with your own extensions and a configuration file onto the system, you can extend the capabilities of the Keep API. For instance, you said, I want to have /approve for where I can submit arbitrary JSON, and the backend knows where in which database to put it. The Keep API will allow you to build an extension model. The way to do that is pretty straightforward. You start with an open API specification. That's this horrible big YAML file, and then create a configuration which tells you which is your Java class that it loads, and what is the REST API it uses, and you're good to go. And yep, and then you're good. So one of the things, when I talked a little bit about Open API, a shout out I wanted to give to the tools we use. So there is a tool called Epicurio. That's an open source project provided by Red Hat. And that allows you to go and edit this API specification. So you see, I can go and I said, okay, I was working with the Keep API. It realizes that 3 days ago I updated it. And let me just show you how it looks like. So if you don't have a tool like this, then it looks like this. Just to give you a little idea on the magnitude you're dealing with. Yep. So the core API is about almost 4,000 lines of description, and nobody in his right mind wants to edit a file like this. So we use this tool where you can have very comfortable and say, okay, how does auth work? I said, okay, in auth there's a post, and post needs to have a basic auth request, and a basic auth request is defined over here, and it says, okay, this has a password and a username, and they are both required. So it's very comfortable and easy to extend the whole thing. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share with you, and I would be happy to take questions. Oops, wrong part. Okay.
Stephan, hi. So thank you for the session, and I think it's good to know.
Yes.
Stephan, hi. I hope you hear me well. So thank you for the session. It's, I think, a great project. We know you've been working on it for a long time, and the things that your team did and the work done is really tremendous. So how easily you can enable API on any application of Domino. So we have a question from audience. Will it work also on old releases of Domino? Can you comment on that?
Okay, so it runs currently. We test it on release 11 and release 12. You should have a good chance for it to run on release 10. I have no clue whether it would run on release 9. Of course, some of the features like DQL is limited by what your Domino version can do, but it will definitely run on 11 and 12, and probably on 10.
I see. For people who are impressed with what you shown today, what internet resources you can recommend? Because I already posted to the chat forum project keep.io the URL of your project. Is there anything else? Maybe Slack channel?
Okay, so there is a Slack channel which we are about to prepare that gives you also early access to some of the binaries. So if you're interested, send me an email, let me know, and I'll need to discuss that, of course, with our product management, and we can probably make a Docker container available which is ready configured, so you can try it out.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I'm just checking more, and I think we have no other questions, but yeah, I know it's a really impressive project, and I think everybody is really interested how to API enable applications. So yeah.
So one of the things which we currently test and will be part of Keep. So what you see in there, the APIs was a general API. So you query a database, you query a view, and it's very generic. But a new feature which is currently under development and test is that you get actually an open API specification for a given database. So there are a lot of tools that said, okay, here's an open API specification, generate me a skeleton application. And what Keep will do, you point it to your, like, say, approval NSF, and based on the configuration setting of Keep, it will generate the open API specification for that one database, which you then can consume, for instance, in VaultMX or in using the Swagger generator tools to then build an application on your own platform, like, say, an Android application or an iOS application or something like that. So we're not out of ideas yet, but we would be very happy if you have questions and ideas to hear from you, so we can improve it further.
Yeah, we have more questions coming in. So do we have a wiki related to the project? And the same question, question from the same person, do we need to have an SSL between servers that are in one domain to get data from Domino, from Nodes applications?
Okay, so first question, we are preparing documentation. So before Keep will get officially released, there will be a wiki or a website, or we haven't decided on the underlying technology yet, but there will be detailed documentation, including a set of tutorials. So a tutorial for, oh, I'm a Nodes developer, how do I use this? Or I'm a web developer, how do I use this? And the second part is Keep is an add-on on the Domino server, so you don't need to go and configure extra SSL. But of course, you do not want to access Keep using just HTTP, so you want to go and use SSL. For instance, on my demo server, I use an Nginx in front of both Domino and Keep, which does my SSL, but you can provide an SSL certificate. So we support all the going formats, like, say, PEM file, PSX file, Java, a key store, whatever you fancy.
I see. Thanks. And one more question. I think the project is already downloadable and even in beta. Anybody can go to projectkeep.io and try it, right?
Not yet. We made that access restricted. So if you ask nicely, I can make it available, but officially it's not there yet.
Okay, and can you put some light on when we could expect this release, at least beta, public beta?
Somebody's going to shoot me for that. The current plan is to release it at the same time frame as R12 will be available. But That's my personal opinion. That's not an official statement yet.
Okay, Stephan, thank you very much.
You're most welcome.